All right. Okay. Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Who already joined us with us here?
Okay, so good morning, everyone. And then I'm so sorry for this lateness because we have some problem with the internet connection. So we are waiting for the Wi-Fi. And then please for the students, Tolib dan Tolibah, all Tolib dan Tolibah, please turn on your camera because we would like to start our event today. We have talk shows on language, educations, and cultures with Mr. Marcel. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Marcel.
Walaikum salam.
Okay.
I hope you're all good today.
Actually, supposed to be good, but yeah, but internet connections happen not really good for this morning. We are trying to connect the internet for another teachers.
Yeah, I'm used to it. So,
I see.
test of patience.
Yeah, something that we have
It's okay.
prepared like the previous day, but yeah, something that we cannot control like internet connection. So just rush.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what do we call? They have a word for that. Force majeure.
Yes, force major. Okay, and then so for the students, Talib and Taliba, please turn on your camera. Okay, so for this morning, there will be Al-Quran recitations that will be delivered by Ibrahim and Johan. Ibrahim, where is Ibrahim? Ibrahim, 11 grader. Are you there, Ibrahim? Oh, Ibrahim. How about Johan? Okay. Okay, Hafiz. Assalamualaikum, Hafiz.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, do you mind if I ask you to read Al-Quran recitations for this event? Later, I will let you to read Al-Quran.
Yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, Surah Al-Hujarat 10 to 15.
Sorry?
Okay, so Surah Al-Hujarat 10 to 15. Later, you have to recite it later.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so again for students, please turn on your camera. Please turn on your camera because we would like to start our event today. In 2 minutes. Oh ya udah. Coba on kan dulu.
Can I start? Or do I have to wait?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay,
How are
so
you?
how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Okay, I'm good. I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Okay, so Alhamdulillah Alamin, this morning we can meet in the very special event today. And actually, I'm really thrilled today and feel honored to, to be a moderator and MC. For the very first time, we have talk shows on language, educations, and culture with the native English speakers. And so, but first of all, I need to say thank you to all the teachers here, and then from GEC that have come today, I mean this morning, has joined this event. And then of course, all of my beloved students that have come on time and then turn the camera on. So please, for other students, Tolib dan Toliba, please turn on your camera because we start our event. So before going further, let's open this event by saying Basmalah together.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay, and next is Al-Quran recitations that will be delivered by Hafiz. The time is yours, Hafiz.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Wabarakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innamal mu'minuna ikhwatu fa aslihu baina akhwaykum wattaqullaha la'allakum turhamun. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu la yaskhar qaumun min qaumin asa an yakunu khairan minhum asa an yakunu khairan minhum wala nisa'un min nisa'in asa an yakunna khairan minhun wala talmizu anfusakum wala tanabazu bil alqab bi'sal ismul fusuku ba'dal iman wa man lam yatub fa ulaika humud zalimun. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu ijtanibu katsiran minadh-dhanni inna ba'dadh-dhanni ithmun wa la tajassasu wa la yaghtab ba'dukum ba'da ayuhibbu ahadukum an ya'kula lahma akhihi maitan fakarihtumu wattaqullah innallaha tawwabur rahim. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dzakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum syu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Innallaha alimun khabir. Qalatil a'rabu amanna qul lam tu'minu walakin qulu aslamna walamma yadkhulil iman fi qulubikum wa in tuti'ullaha wa rasulahu la yalitkum min a'malikum syai'a innallaha ghafurur rahim. Innamal mu'minuna alladzina amanu billahi wa rasulihi thumma lam yartabu wa jahadu bi amwalihim wa anfusihim fi sabilillah ulaika humus shadiqun. Sadaqallahul azim.
Alhamdulillah alamin. So thank you very much, Hafiz. Hopefully this event will be blessing by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Okay, and next, without further ado, we will going to have a talk shows. I mean, the presentation first, and with the special guest today, the one and only Mr. Marcel. Okay, assalamualaikum, Mr. Marcel.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm using a simple simple device, a simple camera,
I
so it's
see.
not as bad. But
Okay,
as
so-
long as you guys can hear me, then I think that will be enough.
Yeah.
I will tell a little bit about myself later.
Mhm.
Actually, I first want to start with a quiz, but maybe it's good if at least I say my name and who I am and what I do.
Okay.
So
I see.
my name is Marcel van Delft. I am from the Netherlands. That's next to Germany in Europe. And I moved to Indonesia in 2015 with my wife and two kids. And I became a teacher. Now mostly English conversation teacher and English coordinator. So I have to check a lot of papers from other teachers and colleagues. So I want to share a quiz because I have some questions, or not questions. I have to discuss some myths about learning English. Okay.
Okay,
And
so
I thought
wait,
it
Mr.
would be-
Marcel.
Yes.
Okay. So wait. Okay, so Mr. Marcel, probably this is very important for students to be known that Mrs. Marcel will presenting some materials, right, regarding to language education and cultures. And next, for the students, we will have Q&A sessions. I mean, you can taking note while Mr. Marcel sharing about his idea. And then next, probably. For the student, you can ask directly to us, and then I will get guide for you in the Q&A sessions. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
to make sure the students that taking note while you speaking, and then prepare their best answer, because I believe that everyone here really interested in the material, because some of our students want to go probably to the Netherlands or to Western society for living abroad, probably, or getting married with Bule. Okay. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, and then students, here Mr. Marcel that will be present his presentations. So please, Mr. Marcel.
Okay. Oh, to be clear, first I'm going to share a quiz.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that there will be a link that I share in the chat. I assume that all the students can access the chat, right? So I will post a link and they need to type in their name and then join. And then they have to do a 10-question quiz just to see. And then later in the presentation, most of the answers will be there actually. But I thought it would be fun and a little bit more interactive than just me talking for
Okay.
a long time.
It will be great.
Just saw that my link was gone. Wait, I have to find it again. Okay, there it is. So I will share the link in the chat, and I have to start it first. It's called Base English Camp Quiz, Marcel van Delft. Okay. If the students for some reason cannot access the link, the quiz, then I will just do the quiz together with them. But that would be more fun if they can do it themselves. Okay, there's the link. Wait, now go back to the chat. To everyone, and there it is. Okay, I just shared the link. I just shared the link in the chat. So if they click on it, they will be able to type in a name and join, and then or start. I think it is start. It says start. You know, yeah, I can see Haya, Fatih, Ibrahim, Ahmad. Okay, so I'll wait for more participants. So I'll give it 1 minute and then I'll press start. Well, luckily everybody's already getting used to the new technology. It's just a fun quiz about learning English. It's not about grammar, don't worry. I think you already studied that enough. Wow, we got 20 something. 25, 26, 27. Okay, it doesn't matter. I can start. If you start later, that's no problem because it doesn't change your score. So you will be competing against each other, actually. So we can see who is the winner. All right, so. Okay, I'll turn off the music because that's too noisy. Oh, now I can share my screen, so at least you can see the standing. Wait. All right. Okay. Ah, Vino is taking the lead. Oh, Dafa and Ale. Sorry if I mispronounce your names, but Ada. So if you answer faster, you get more points. But if you answer incorrectly, you get less points. So you have to be both fast and correct. But it's just for fun. Don't worry. Don't get a score. Ibrahim and Rastia are taking over. Bagas is, Ibrahim, Ale. Wow, this is a fierce competition. Wow, 48 players. I think the maximum I ever had at school was 26. Because our classes are like maximally 26. There are some tricky questions in here. Don't think too long. I'll wait 3 more minutes, okay? And then I'll just continue. I will not end the quiz, but I'll just continue with the presentation. Otherwise, they might be wondering why I'm taking so much time. Come on, Nada, one more question. Yeah. 2 more minutes. I think most of the students are about to finish. Now, Paul is thinking deeply about one particular question, maybe. 1 more minute. Looks like Ale has the, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but has the first place. So I think we already got a winner, unless the others suddenly catch up, but I don't think that's likely. Do you think we should wait until everybody's finished? Might take a while. I see some students in the at the bottom. That might take a while. So if you don't mind, I will continue with the presentation. So those who want to finish, try to do it quickly. Later, I'm going to end the quiz. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint. After the presentation, I'll use my webcam, so I will be it will be better visual quality than what I'm using now. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this one. Hosts, can you see the Can you see the presentation? Is it
Yes.
visible?
Yes.
Okay, good. Excellent. This is the first time that I do a speech like this online. Um, I think more than a year ago I did one offline. So, but luckily teaching online, we've been doing that for 1 year, so you get used to it. All right. So, oh yeah, I'll try not to talk too fast because sometimes that is one of my perks. Okay, so my nationality is Dutch. Yeah, I'm from the Netherlands, but I think you already know that because it's been introduced. And I'm married. I have 2 children. I was born in 1978, so it means I'm almost 43 years old. And I actually studied psychology, but I had a lot of interesting jobs, from working for the government at the Ministry of Agriculture to working for Shell, a pharmacy company, well, actually a laboratory. And so I've been doing lots of interesting, diverse things. Um, Eventually, when I moved to Indonesia, I started teaching. So that's what I do. But I also like to write. I sometimes write blog articles and uh, books, and I make music, electronic music, mostly on the computer now, if I have the time. I'm interested in, well, anything related to nature, music, spirituality, reading, writing, food. There are actually many more things, but just to not take too much of your time. Oh yeah, I'm also a mualaf, so I converted to Islam in 2007, 2008. I think officially 2008. And so I'm learning about that. I'm also learning how to read Al Quran with a teacher. So that's a new journey for me. So that's interesting for you guys because I have a background in Western culture and ideas, but at the same time, I have some understanding, I hope, of Eastern culture, at least about other religions, about Indonesia, but also other countries and cultures. So at least you'll be able to compare, and I'll be able to understand from different perspectives, from yours and from mine, of course, and other people. So that's helpful. If you get a native speaker who is from Britain or America, but they have not been accustomed to Indonesian culture or they don't know anything about Islam, it might be a little bit more difficult to bridge the gap between those two cultures, right? So, okay, so okay, that's my little family. I'm from the Netherlands. Some of my, let's call it guilty pleasures, like the things that I actually like. Well, I just put that there because I thought everybody likes amusement parks. This is my favorite amusement park in the Netherlands, but I haven't been there for a while. I've been there last December, but in the Netherlands, everything was locked down. So we couldn't go anywhere actually because of the restrictions related to COVID-19. So that was unfortunate. Well, I'm also a great lover of all types of food, sweet food, salty food, from Western foods to Eastern foods. I like food from any culture. A little bit spicy is okay, but if it's too spicy, that kind of, you know, assaults my stomach. So I try to eat not too spicy, but a little bit's okay. Okay, sorry, let's go into a little bit more serious, well, a little bit, uh, ideas and the difference between Eastern culture and Western culture. I have to say, it is not that black and white, actually. There's not really such a thing as Eastern and Western culture. There are some differences, but they're not as big as we might think. There are big differences, but I think that um, it's not, it's more complex than that because things are changing and not every country in the West is exactly the same and not each country in the East is the same. So just take it with a grain of salt, but it might be interesting. It's still important to know that there are differences. So what I've noticed, and again, this is not exactly true for every Western country, but in the Netherlands, we typically like to voice our opinions. So even to our boss, I mean, I know that I would say things to my boss that if I do that in Indonesia, they might be like, really? So we are usually more direct in communication, especially in the Netherlands. It's not the case in France and Belgium. So it depends also on the country. It's not just a thing of the West. People are more individualistic. We find privacy very important. I've noticed when I moved to Indonesia that people sometimes like to come uninvited and unexpectedly, and then they show up and they expect to be treated like honorable guests, meaning that you need to have food prepared. So that took some time getting used to, because I'm a person, I sometimes need my private space, not because I'm from the West, but I like my quiet time because it helps me to recharge and also to come up with new ideas. Okay, so also people in some Eastern places work more together, and there's a hierarchy. So it's very clear the difference between the leader, the manager, or the boss, or the teacher, and the employees, or the students. There are differences in class. It was like that in the West too, but it changed. And it's not the same in every country. It's different between. I've been in Belgium. In Belgium, you have to ask your boss for everything. Maybe not for going to the restroom, but for anything else, even making a copy of something or taking initiative is not always appreciated. So even Belgium, which is a neighbor of the Netherlands, I mean, even that culture is very different from, for instance, Dutch culture. But in Dutch culture, people just, they would say Marcel, hey Marcel, even to their boss. Like if I have an employee, he would say, Marcel, do you know about the deadline for this new IT project? I mean, there's different ways of addressing people. It's less formal. But again, that is not in all countries. Okay, I'll try to be a little bit quicker before you guys fall asleep. So when I came back to the Netherlands during my holiday, um, I was very surprised when me and my wife and the kids wanted to cross the street at the zebra crossing, and then suddenly there was a guy on a bicycle, and I thought, oh wait, just let him pass because maybe he didn't see us, because we've been living in Indonesia for like more than 5 years, and then suddenly he stopped, and we were like surprised, and he said, yeah, because you guys have priority, so you go first, and I was like, oh, that's actually something that I thought, well, that's different. Sometimes in here, even when I try to stop to let somebody cross the zebra crossing, they look at me like, what are you doing? So it's a little bit different, but maybe it's changing because people are getting used to. But yeah, traffic and yeah, corruption. Why put it there? Actually, that is not something that's different in the West or the East. It's just, I think, if I compare, in Indonesia, people are more open about it. I think in the West, the corruption is more hidden. It's not like visible. Punctuality, that is a thing, but again, it depends. That's not the difference between the East and the West. That's the difference between countries. In Japan, they're very punctual, more punctual even than in the Netherlands. But in Indonesia, it's a little bit more flexible. But again, it depends. In our school, the people are expected to be very punctual. Otherwise, yeah, that's why they have to use a clocking machine, right? But sometimes when you have a meeting with business people, they might show up an hour later or 2 hours later, or they just cancel it suddenly. That still happens a lot in certain circles. So that took some time getting used to, because in the Netherlands, people are very punctual, almost as punctual as in Germany. They are like the kings of punctuality. Okay, sorry. Racism, discrimination. There's still a lot of racism and discrimination, even in the Netherlands, and also against Muslims, I think, though it's improving. And the West is in the picture now because of what happened in the United States. So when people think about racism, they think about African Americans protesting in the streets, but I see a lot of racism still also in Indonesia, and that is a bit unfortunate. Especially like people invite me because I'm, a native speaker, but also sometimes they see me as a little bit, more special. But I think there's still some improvement that has to be done for the image that people have of themselves in Indonesia, that they have more, that they know that they're equal, that all races are equal and all people are equal, and men and women are equal, have equal opportunities. But that is also improving also in Indonesia. So like I said, it's not the same. Then the things that people sometimes don't like about the West, like consumerism, like people were shopping, buying things, showing off, narcissism, especially now with Facebook and Instagram, people really like to show off with their material wealth or what they look like. That is not a thing of the West anymore. I think it's got imported, imported into Indonesia and other Eastern countries. So that is not a thing of the West anymore. It's a little bit unfortunate. I hope that it would be different, but because I think it's not really good if people are too materialistic or think themselves like, yeah, like the people can change their profile picture with an application, right? They can make it more, that you look 20 years younger, and people can make deep fakes. And I'm not sure if you ever heard about that, but that's a thing. I don't really agree with that, but yeah, there's not much you can do about it. I just prefer to be just natural, just me. But you have to make the choice yourself. Okay, freedom of choice. Sorry, I'm just too fast. Freedom of choice, especially in the Netherlands, people can choose a lot of things. They don't have to ask permission to their family when they want to get married or whatever they want to do with their lives. I know that's not the case for all Indonesian families or any families in China or Japan or Eastern countries, but there's still a considerable difference. The Netherlands are very open in that aspect. So you can choose your religion, you can choose your sexuality. I mean, in the Netherlands, it's perfectly okay if you are gay, or so that's a big difference. That is still noticeable. Declining moral standards, yeah, that's hard to. Sometimes you see that people are becoming more, how to say that, rude, just say it like that. Um, and I think people are less respectful nowadays also in the Netherlands. I think that's a problem. And people are questioning religions, but at the same time, they're looking. So I came to Indonesia, I thought people would be much more religious and spiritual. That's one of the things I liked. And then I realized that it's not always the case, and that many Indonesians also struggle with faith or spirituality, and sometimes they also don't know what to believe. And then also people in the Netherlands, they seem like they don't like religion, but at the same time, they're also looking for answers, and most people are also thinking about spirituality and about God, but not always in a very specified way. Right. Equality, yeah, equal rights for men and women. It should be like that. I mean, that's what they say, but it's not always the case. You can still see that there are differences. Tolerance. Well, it used to be that the Netherlands was one of the most tolerant countries in the world. Even famous philosophers like René Descartes, they fled to the Netherlands to escape, prosecution from other, yeah, like the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition. I'm not sure if that was the same time, but I mean, from less tolerant authorities, let's say it like that. But nowadays, you can see it's not always tolerant. When people, after there have been some wars in Iraq and Syria, and that causes a big flow of immigrants, and a lot of people in the Netherlands don't like that, and also against Muslims especially after 9/11. If you heard about it, the people are not that tolerant. There are some right-wing parties, political parties that really don't like Muslims. So tolerance, not always. It depends. I'm not sure if it's improving or getting worse, but respect for authority. We'll talk about that later, respect for authority. Okay, so there we got Descartes visiting Amsterdam. This is a painting, of course. So many people came to the Netherlands because it had a tolerant climate. You could have any religion. People didn't prosecute you, put you in jail for having a different religion or a different view. So people like to come there. I'm not sure if it's still a tolerant country. You'll have to find out. Okay, this is like in Amsterdam. Like I said, in people, it's okay. Maybe not always in practice, but at least on paper, it's okay for people to be different or to even to be gay. Men can get married. Whatever you think about that personally, that is just the way it is in the Netherlands. So you will get, yeah, that's something that you will encounter if you go to the Netherlands. Also about drugs, about sexuality. People are very open mostly in the Netherlands. If you're not used to that, it will be a bit of a shock, maybe. So, okay, discipline and engineering. Well, the Netherlands is known for engineering in the area of water management. Why? Because in the past, the Netherlands was much smaller and it was often flooded when there was a storm because the land is very low, actually below sea level. So the Dutch had to learn how to manage water because otherwise they would just perish, they would just die. So they built, those interesting waterworks in Zeeland. That is a province in the southwest, and other things. And they're kind of landmarks now. People, many tourists go there. I'm not sure if they still do, but it's quite of interesting. I think it's more interesting than Volendam or Madurodam, but yeah, that's up to you. Doesn't mean that everybody knows, but I know nothing about engineering, but everybody has their own specialty, right? And even in Dubai, Dutch engineers have been asked to help with the famous Palm Islands, if you haven't heard about that. So that's something that the Dutch are known for, how to manage water. Also about the, yeah, traffic rules, like I said earlier, right? Okay, now a little bit serious, a more serious topic. So, questioning authority. Um, I heard an analysis from uh, a famous guy. He's like an ex-Navy SEAL, and he kind of explained it in a podcast I listened to. Why the Japanese, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why Japan lost the war in the Pacific after Pearl Harbor against the Americans. Well, the thing is, American military, they have a lot of independence. So commanders can make their own decisions, and the leaders in units can make their own decisions, and even soldiers can question their leaders if they disagree. So even leaders, if they're good leaders, not all leaders are like that, will ask their subordinates, like their soldiers, what they whether they understand the plan, if they agree with it. So people have a lot of independence to make their own decisions. That's why when they were fighting on the islands in the Pacific, and they didn't have contact with their superiors, it will take a long time. It's very inefficient. They could make very quick decisions because everything keeps changing. In a war, things happen, bombs are falling, and people are dying. So they can make very quick decisions if you are independent and you don't have to ask everything. While in the Japanese army, everybody had to kind of listen to the emperor because the emperor was all wise and holy and the rising sun, or whatever you want to call it. And then the commanders had so much authority that many of the Japanese subordinates didn't dare to question it. And that gave problems when they suddenly had an unexpected change, right? When the masterful plan didn't work out as they thought it would. So that was a bit of a problem. So I think I know in Asian culture, also in Indonesia, it's more common to respect leaders, and it's good. We should respect leaders. But as young people, it's okay to sometimes question: is my leader or even my parent, are they really right? You can, in a very polite way, you can voice your own opinion or question things, because I think it's important that we think independently, because sometimes leaders or parents or anybody make mistakes, and if we can help prevent those mistakes, yeah, why not? So that's the difference. But maybe that's also changing, I don't know. It's hard to tell. All right, let's talk about Islam a little bit. I mean, I'm not an expert on the religions, I have to be careful, but I do see what's happening worldwide sometimes. And The one side is that there's a lot of suppression and bad treatment of Muslims worldwide. There was the war in Yugoslavia where many Muslims died, and the Bosnian Muslims, and in China. But that's a bit of a different, yeah, controversial topic because, yeah, I mean, if you ask questions about that, I think the Chinese will not like that. So, but there's supposed to be some a Muslim minority group that is being suppressed in China. So it's not an easy time for Muslims. They face a lot of suppression. At the same time, maybe you remember this. It's a bit of a 9/11, 2001. Two airplanes hit the World Trade Center. I watched it on television. You guys were not yet born, but I saw it on television, and it was a big shock. From that day, from that single day in 2001, the image of Muslims in the world, especially America, changed. It doesn't mean that it's always negative, because a lot of Muslims are living very happy lives, even in the United States, and people are living in harmony. But since then, Muslims have sometimes been associated with terrorists. And why is this important today? Because you are smart young people. You might have a future where you have to talk to people from other countries. You are the, what do you call it, the representatives of your country and your religion. So you are a little bit, well, I think more than a little, you're responsible for the image of the religion. We all are. We have to make sure that people don't have the wrong idea about it, because our future depends on it. So try to save the image of Islam. If you learn English, you'll be able to do that much better than if you only know your own language. So that's why English is important. So you can help save that image. Okay. Muslims in the Netherlands. Well, there are a lot of Muslims in the Netherlands because, yeah, first of all, Indonesia was a colony of the Netherlands, and but we also have Muslims from Turkey and Syria and Iraq and Morocco. So I think people are already used to Muslims, although there are some, you know, right-wing politicians who discriminate Muslims. But I think on average, people are still okay. We even have a few, mosques in the Netherlands, masjids. And there's sometimes a clash. If Muslims from Indonesia or from Turkey and they come from, cities and they're educated, they usually don't find it that hard to adapt, to find a way to survive in Dutch culture. But if they come from a rural area, like they're simple people who didn't have much education, they usually have traditional values. If they come to the Netherlands, it's very difficult. I've seen it. I knew some families where the children, they did lots of things, using drugs and experimenting with sex, and that was mostly because their parents were very traditional and strict, but all their friends, most of their friends were Dutch, and they were very free compared to them. They had very different values. So that's a bit difficult. If you come from a country with very traditional values and then you come to the Netherlands, it's a bit hard. Some people actually become extremists. I don't mean like terrorist extremists, but fanatical, like very strict about their values and religion, because they feel threatened. They feel scared that they lose their identity, that they lose their culture. That happens a lot. Discrimination still happens a lot. I still hear when people sometimes talk about immigrants or about Islam or Muslims, is still negative. Last time I still worked in the Netherlands, even some of my colleagues said negative things about Muslims, which I kind of had to correct. But I mean, it's not as tolerant as I thought. The mosques can have a call to prayer, like sometimes, like I think only for the Friday prayer, but it's so in Indonesia it's actually the other way around. So there's always azan, right? But churches don't have church bells. In the Netherlands, it's the other way around. So people are still a little bit careful with that. Okay. Sorry, the images are not very clear, but so in the Netherlands there are now a lot of shops that have halal food, and even Dutch people like it. So, and Muslim-friendly shops. Um, many Muslims are integrated into society. You will see many scientists, psychotherapists, teachers who are Muslims and they wear hijab. It's not like in France where people are sometimes forbidden to wear a headscarf. But in some places it happens. So there's still discrimination of Muslims. So there's still a lot of image building that has to be done. Okay, so there are also Muslim student organizations. There are Muslims in politics. They're everywhere now. They have a lot of influence now on Dutch politics, but maybe not as much as they should because, yeah, because of the cultural climate, it's still a little bit anti-Islam. But people become more aware. There's also not because people in Muslims in the Netherlands come from different areas of the world. If they come from Iran or Indonesia, the way they experience and practice their Islam, their faith, is very different. That's why some people say the Islam does not exist because it's very different. Some people even wear burqas and other people don't wear any headscarf. There are very big differences between different groups of Muslims in the Netherlands. Okay. Feminism, yeah, there's some discussions of feminism. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that some young Muslim women in the Netherlands are talking about whether headscarves are necessary or not. So I think there's a debate about that. Um, so it's up to you. I mean, everybody has their own opinion about that. Okay. So, okay, studying in the Netherlands. Well, this is, okay, maybe you're going to be jealous if you read all this. No, I'm not sure. So, Dutch children are considered the fourth happiest in the world. So they're very happy. Why? Because, okay, this is not why. So children have to go to school from ages 4 until 12, and then they go to secondary from 12 until 16 or 8, depending whether they have scientific education or practical. This is different. They almost have no homework until secondary. So there's less homework than in Indonesia, and especially than in China. Less social academic pressure, but that's changing. But in my childhood, my parents, they did care about my grades, but they didn't put me on a course. I didn't have any course teachers. I don't even remember my parents helping me study. Or so there's less pressure, less stress. If you so the students, because there's not much pressure, they're less stressed. They're more relaxed. They have a lot of time to play with their friends. And well, that's a bit more difficult during the COVID pandemic, but less competitive. So there's no ranking like who has the highest average score in the class or in the school. They don't celebrate that. Even if you are the best student, they will kind of say, "Ah, you're a nerd. Ah, you're not cool." But maybe that's changing, right? Because the choice of school. So even if you have a sorry, I'm almost even if you have a not a very high IQ on the if you did IQ test or another test or your grades are not impressive, your parents can still have a decision. I mean, you can still go to a good university, but also that is changing. Your career. So I think especially in China, but in many Asian countries, so the grades you get at school, and especially the school that you go to and the type of university, it determines what career you have, like whether you can have what kind of job you can get and how much money you make. In the Netherlands, that's not the same, but that might also be changing. So your career doesn't depend on your scores only or the type of school you come from, but that's not always true. Yeah, children in the Netherlands, they don't address their teacher as sir or Mr. or Miss. They would just say Marcel. It's a bit weird if you're not used to it. Even I would find it strange now. And they can express their opinion. Sometimes when I join other classes in Indonesia, I noticed that the teachers really expect the students to just sit quietly and listen. But in my lessons, I even though they have to be patient and wait for an opportunity, I always encourage them to ask questions or to give their opinion if it's possible. But that's not so evident sometimes in Asian countries. So Free of choice. Yeah, children are taught since a young age you can marry anybody you like, although some parents might still not agree with that because that's personal. And religion, but that depends because there are some Christian families that are very strict. So it's I think even more stricter than in Indonesia. But on average, yeah, people are free to choose what religion, even sexual orientation. But still, your parents may not like it if you suddenly one day decide to tell them, "Oh, I'm gay." So I think it's hard. Every child you get some amount of money every month as a parent. And the more children you get, the more you get. This is even more in Belgium. So there's a lot of support for children. But also, I think this is because in Indonesia, I mean, parents have many children, like 3 or 4. They are more elderly than they are young people. So I think the government also wants to support people to have children. Okay. All right. Sorry, I think I'm making this longer than necessary, but let's just enjoy it. Okay. You only have this once in a while. Oh yeah, there's some common. That's same from the quiz, right? Native speakers never make mistakes. Oh my goodness, they make so many mistakes. I make mistakes every day. Now, I'm not technically 100% native speaker. I'm more native Dutch than English, but yeah, I'm learning. So for you, I guess I'm a native speaker, but doesn't matter. Any native speaker, they make many. I think they make more mistakes in grammar than like Indonesian students who know the grammar well because you study it, and people who are just talking, they make mistakes all the time because making mistakes is part of talking. That's just how your brain works, I think. Many mistakes, but they're okay with it. But sometimes Indonesian students are very shy because they think they're gonna make mistakes, but nobody cares actually, to be honest, whether you make a mistake or not. As long as the other person understands what you mean, then it will be okay. You learn English best by avoiding mistakes and failure. No, that is not true. You have to be brave. Don't be shy to make mistakes. You will learn more from that. I know that now because I have to talk Indonesia to my own teachers. So I don't agree with that. That's not yeah, you should pay attention to your teachers, but I've seen many students when I was still teaching high school who wrote essays and they were very boring because they all write exactly the same thing that I think wants to read. And it's very boring and it's not original and they don't learn how to really use the language. So you have to be bold to try new things and come up with your own ideas. That way you learn much faster by being creative. Okay. Of course, it doesn't mean, of course, you should still listen to the teacher, but I mean, have your own ideas, not only do what is expected. Go beyond that. Oh, sorry. Only useful if you need it for a job. Oh, well, you guys are all on the internet, right? Almost everything on the internet is in English. I mean, you don't want to be stuck only in Indonesian websites if you want to learn about things in the world, right? People. That's why you have me today here speaking, right? So you need English more and more, unless you want to learn Chinese, but that's more difficult. That's also, but that's not as global as English. Okay, grammar and vocabulary. Yes, you need to know grammar and vocabulary, but don't get stuck in vocabulary and grammar only. Okay, because you best learn it by just speaking your mind, being creative by. um Yeah, just the problem is if you learn too many difficult words but you don't know how to use them, that's gonna make you look less smart than you actually want to. So it's easier to not try to aim for too high a vocabulary, but just to make sure that you can communicate clearly. I think that's more important. The vocabulary will come once you read more, talk more, and grammar. Yeah, it's important, but again, grammar is sometimes changing and okay. English always makes sense. Don't let anybody tell you that English is a very easy and logical language. There are many weird things that don't make sense. Let's go to the next one. Okay, sorry again about the picture quality. Like, why is box, the plural is boxes, but the plural of ox is oxen? If you say goose, the plural is geese, but the plural is of moose is never meese. And then the plural of mouse is mice, but the plural of house is houses, not highs. The plural of man is men, but the plural of pen is never pen. So English is, it sometimes doesn't even make any sense if you think about it. So don't let you be told otherwise, okay? But there are rules, of course, there are grammar rules, but the fact that you sometimes don't get it or that you make mistakes is normal because there are many, many, many inconsistencies, okay? So same for pronunciation. Bahasa Indonesia is so wonderful. You can, I mean, what you read is how to say it. It's very easy. If you know how to read Bahasa, you almost directly know how to say. But in English, every time is different. Sometimes you write K like a K, sometimes like CK, sometimes like a C, sometimes like a Q. It's very hard. So don't be discouraged. It's normal that you don't get it. Even I sometimes don't get it. I have to Google many times if I'm not sure. So don't be ashamed, okay? Don't be scared. It's normal. Okay, about failure. This is um, this is Jeff Bezos. He's the founder of Amazon. I'm sure you know him. You guys must know him. So what I found interesting about him is not his bio or Amazon, but more that he said that if he would rather fail than never try. So that's the same for language, same for anything. If you don't want to fail, then you're never gonna, try things that will really bring you somewhere, that are really gonna make you successful, whatever that means. Okay. So how can you learn English? You can watch YouTube videos. I'm sure you're already doing that. Many of our students are even better than their parents or teachers in English. Why? Because they watch YouTube all the time. Not all the YouTube videos are good, of course. Or sometimes they only watch Minecraft and but still, on average, they develop the language, listening to podcasts, talking to natives, but not those boring questionnaires that you get in when you go to Kota Tua. Okay, that you have to try to ask what they are interested in. That they will be much more willing to talk to you if you ask about their opinion or what they like. Okay, if you meet them somewhere, exploring in a fun, engaging way. I always try to use many quizzes and even pictures and drawing and anything in my lesson because I don't want the students to get bored, especially now when it's online. If you are bored, everything that comes in your right ear will go out the left. So it's pointless if you don't like learning the language because your teacher doesn't know how to make it engaging and fun, doesn't never makes a joke or whatever, then you waste your time. Seriously. So it has to be engaged. Doesn't mean you never have to do serious things and study grammar and do tests, of course, but you can do both, right? Okay. Follow your passions. If you are excited about a certain hobby or whatever it is, writing or dancing or beatboxing, or and you use in English websites to find out, or you talk to people in English about that, you will learn much faster because you're really, 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 really interested. I have a student, primary two students, they're very cute. They usually love dinosaurs or unicorns. Well, one girl, she really loves dinosaurs. So all she talks about all the time, dinosaurs, 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 dinosaurs. Diplodocus, T-Rex, Spinosaurus. So, but it helps her to get better at English because she can talk about what she finds interesting. Okay, that's how. Taking risks and be willing to fail, like Jeff Bezos. Okay, you don't know the many times that people fail before they become successful. Some writers, they write for 30 years before they publish their first novel. Some people, they screw up 20 companies before they finally found a company that works. You never see their failures. All you see is their success. But to be honest, almost all the people that are successful, they failed many times first, but they don't always tell you that, okay? Overnight success is rare. Most people, they have to fail first before they succeed. So never be discouraged and don't be scared to make mistakes. Okay, as long as you try to learn and you do it in a good and polite way. Become your own critic. You have to look at your own language. Okay, check your own essay. Don't depend on the teachers. Become your own analyst. Analyze what you are doing wrong. Record your voice. If it's about speaking, make a recording, listen to it. You know very well whether it's wrong or not. You have intuition for that. Okay? Use the language every day. Why do the students in our school, I'm not promoting it, our school, I'm not even going to mention the name, so I'm not here to promote anything except ideas. So um, our students speak English very comfortably. They're never shy. Why? Because they have to use it every day in an English speaking environment. If possible, try to speak English on a daily basis with your friends or with your family if they can, because sometimes your parents don't know English that much. So that it's different, but try, okay? That will make you feel more comfortable using it. Not always, it's not about better, but less nervous, less shy. Be creative. Creativity, it's like a Einstein would never have been a genius if he didn't use his imagination. Okay, so use your imagination. Be creative. Also with language, whatever way you use it, it's very important. I'm a creative person, whether you like what I make or not, but and it always helps me learn. Okay. All right, so I'll try to be very fast now. English is a language that is used much more than other languages. So that's why we can call it a global language. Okay, so it's used on the internet, it's used in science, it's used in, you know, in air traffic control towers when airplanes are landing and taking off. So if you know English, then you get access to many things. This is a bit complicated. We don't have to really go deep into that. But the world is changing. We're not living in the 20th century anymore. Now everything is connected. People, old companies are disappearing. It's not like you have a boss and your boss has a boss under him and then you just listen to. You're gonna work together with many people in the network, maybe, unless you work for a very traditional company. Okay, so you're gonna meet many people, maybe not even in real life, only on the internet. So you meet people all around the world and you have to work together to develop something. Your customers will be here, and then your employer will be there, or whatever you call that, contractor. And it's very complex. It's called value networks. So, and people have to be able to communicate. And what do they communicate with? If it's international, English. So you have to learn how to communicate clearly. So that's why it's important to master English. Okay. Okay, so this is the last slide, don't worry. So you will not depend on one language and cultural. I mean, if you, that's why you have me, right, to talk about the Netherlands. You need to be able to see other countries' perspectives too. You have to understand how other people think in the world, because you're not alone in the world as Indonesians, right? So you have to understand. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. You will have access to many things, because almost every website and science is all in English. If you can master English well, then you'll have access to a lot of different ideas. You can do courses, you can set up a business. It's much better for your future. You will be less vulnerable. Why? Because in any country there are people who, you know, they're called social media influencers, and sometimes they have a bad influence because they only care about popularity, and what they're telling is actually fake news. It's like it's not really healthy, but it's happening everywhere now with social media. So at least if you can, you have different languages, so at least you can compare, not only follow the people in one area or one culture, but you try to compare and then you form your own opinion, okay, about that. You have better job opportunities, like I tried to explain before. Isolationism has failed. What do I mean? That there are some people who think that Indonesia should be more self-dependent and do like they use their own wise, they develop their own technology, they don't depend on other countries. I get where it's coming from, because there has been colonization and maybe even new colonization, and you know, other countries are trying to dominate, but still you cannot. Everything is connected. everything is connected nowadays. Also the climate. So there's no way, there's no other way. You have to learn how to work together, and that you need a language for that, right? That everybody speaks. We have learned that, yeah, see, everything is global. Climate change, COVID-19, poverty, inequality, hunger, wars. Everything is connected and depends on each other. So there's no way that you can just ignore what other people are doing or saying. So we have to work together with other countries, and the only way to do that is if everybody speaks a common language. It doesn't mean that English is the best language, but it's just the fact that English is the most used language. So that's why it would be better for the political future also if you can speak English well enough at least. Okay, all businesses, yeah, it's not all of them, but but it's not that traditional companies are disappearing. People are now working together. You know, when many of my friends, they are developers, they make games or software, and they work together with people from India and Sweden, and they never meet. Yeah, sometimes on a Skype call or a Zoom call, but that was already like 15 or 20 years ago. Can you imagine now? I mean, it's very likely that you will have to cooperate with people from India or China or Singapore or Japan. So master the language and don't be scared, because you're gonna need it in the future. Okay. Amazon, yeah, value networks. We talked about that, and most well, one of the important reasons, um, we have to save the image of our religion. So the only way to do that, if we can speak in a language that other people understand. So if you can speak English well, you can also help to create a more positive image of that, the image that our religion deserves. So you are responsible for that because you are the new generation, and you have to make up your own mind and have your own opinions, and you have to be brave enough to voice them. But if you can reach not only Indonesian people, but also people in other countries, people will think more positively about Muslims. And it's really needed that that we all help to, to improve that image. Okay? I finally reached the end. Are you guys still with me or?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, that little mermaid was actually a little joke because it refers to the legend of Lake Toba.
I see.
Okay.
Have you ever been to Lake Toba, sir?
I no, I wish, I wish. I only heard about the legend because the students were studying the story because they were doing a drama performance about it. So I never had the pleasure going. It's in Sumatra, right?
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
in North Sumatra. Okay, later you have to go there after pandemic.
Okay.
Okay,
There's so
so
many things on my list.
I see. Okay,
I was
so
stop. Oh, I already stopped. Did I already stop sharing or?
yep.
Okay, good. I will use my webcam now then.
Okay, so thank you very much for these awesome presentations, Mr. What should I call you, Mr. Marcel or Mr. Delft? What should I call you, Mr. Marcel or Mr. Delft?
In the Netherlands, people would say, well, if it's informal, they would just say Marcel. If it's formal, they would say Mr. van Delft. But when in Indonesia, people always say Mr. Marcel. So just call me Mr. Marcel or
Okay,
Papa
great.
Marcel.
Because more popular Marcel here in Indonesia. And so thank you very much for these our presentations. And please give applause, students. You can give applause online. Okay, for this presentation. So really thank you very much. And then for all the students, please turn on your camera because we will have Q&A sessions. And should you have any questions regarding to the material, language, educations, and cultures, and then what Mr. Marcel have shared to us, you can simply raise your hand with the reactions, and we will choose it like three first, and then Mr. Marcel will answer the questions. But before the student question, I have already a question actually. Okay,
Okay,
so
sure.
okay, talking about the competitiveness, I have been joined in International Physics Olympiad. This is the IFO, like the Physics Olympiad, the oldest one in the world and the biggest one. And then I as liaison officer, and then I expect that the participants coming from Australia, like British and then United States will be really white people. But then I find out that that all the participant is Chinese and India. I mean, yeah, they have the Chinese and this and okay. So that's why I asked them like, why every participant for United States, from United States and UK and Australia always have a slant eyes and then like Indian and then Chinese, because Asian people typically they're really competitive. No matter no matter they are like they are from the Chinese, but when they live in Netherlands, they live in UK, they're really competitive to getting the highest place they want. I mean, like competition, they go to the like low major or something that really hard to get into. It's very interesting. And but I would like to know that because you rise and in Netherlands and then you live in the very Netherlands setting educations, which is the fourth happiest students in the world, and now you're teaching in Indonesia students, and then what is the difference? I mean, between the students in Indonesia and in Netherlands see the educations. What is the perspective on educations?
Well, that's a that's a very good question. It's not easy to answer. First of all, my time as a student is already. I mean, as a if we talk about senior high school, that's like 25 years ago. So things might have already changed. I can compare the students who I'm teaching now with what I'm used to from my friends in the Netherlands. I do think that, but it's not the students themselves who are, they're not that much different. They have the same questions and the same kind of behavior. There's the bullying. There's the same, game addiction, the same hobbies. It's more the parents, I think, and the teachers. The parents have very high expectations, but then again, it's not the same in all schools, because I teach in a private school, a Catholic private school, and most of the parents are of Chinese descent. So that means that they bring, even though they have been changed, but they bring Chinese values. So
Yeah.
I see differences between, like for example, in our neighborhood, most of the kids go to public schools. It's very different. There's no competition. There's no, but I'm actually speaking about private schools and mostly with Chinese influences. So there you can see that children starting from kindergarten, they already have to, they have 4 or 5 course teachers if the parents can afford it, and that they have to do ballet or piano. I'm not sure if that's an Indonesian thing or necessarily Asian thing. I think it's mostly Chinese thing. I think in Japan it's comparable. That competitiveness, it happens in Indonesia, but only in some schools, I think. But maybe I'm wrong, because I've only been teaching in one school, and the rest I only know because I visited schools. But maybe I don't have enough sample to make a final judgment about that. But that's different. But the students are not, they have the same questions. But what is also different is that in Indonesia, most of the schools have a religious
Study.
how you call it, foundation.
Yes,
So students sometimes have questions. Oh, sorry.
yeah.
You wanted to ask something, or?
Oh no, I mean to our operator.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So I'll try to keep it short. So in the Netherlands, children are more, how to say, they have the same questions, and in Indonesia the students have the same questions, but they're kind of taboos about certain subjects like sexuality or atheism. I mean, the students have the same curiosity and they wonder about the same things and they do the same things, but there's a different framework there, because there are taboos and there's a religious foundation. But doesn't mean that because in the Netherlands you also have Christian schools that are very, very strict, where you also have values that are very different from the rest of the Netherlands. But those are some of the things that are different. So there might be many more, but I'll be talking too long. So. Okay.
Okay, so okay, so since you teach in Indonesia, but you in private school, and then most of the students are from the Chinese descent. So of course, although we have give them like relaxation, don't be too competitive. By they bring their own value to be very competitive, right? Because you go to the
Yeah.
private school. Probably it will be different when you go to the public school. And then for student, please, if you have any questions, just raise your hand, or you can leave it on chat books, because this is the time for you to apply your language skill, and then probably you want to have a conversations with because here we are the local teacher, I'm Indonesian teachers, but teaching English, so probably you want to have a conversations with the native speaker. This is your time to apply that. And but probably we are here in senior high school, and probably some of them want to go to the Netherlands University. And then, do you know how about the system? I mean, how if you want to get into, because here in Indonesia is very tough. If you want to go to the best university, the acceptance rates, like for example, Indonesian University is only 0.23, the acceptance rates. So yeah, imagine if there are like 1,000 applications, that will be 23 students that only accepted in this university, and probably in some major less than this. And then how about the university in Netherlands? Do they depend on the test so much, or the GPA or something like that?
I have to be very careful answering because
Yeah,
I'm not
different.
really involved in university life, but
Mhm.
I do know that some students in our school wanted to apply to universities in the Netherlands, and there's an organization called what's the name? Nufresco or something. I need to look that up, but they actually help students to apply to universities. But if I can be very honest, there's an echo. Is that because, sir, can you maybe please, maybe you need to mute first? Is it that, or is it my connection? I'll just try it. Never mind, just the way it is. So it's actually easier if you want to go and study. It's easier to apply in Belgium than in the Netherlands, because I know from my wife's experience, who also wanted to apply for the Netherlands, and then she found out that it's easier and cheaper to go to Belgium, and Belgium is almost the same in terms of culture and university. So that might be an alternative if you really want to go there. That might be worth investigating.
Oh, I see, I see. Because yeah, because a lot of different thing, right? I mean, probably the education system
Yeah.
is different, and then we're still waiting for the student who wants to ask something, and you can leave your questions in the chat box, or probably you can give the reactions, and then we can notice. And then talking about the Muslim, I mean, you say that you mu'alaf, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wait. One second. I want to share the link of the organization that helps students study in the Netherlands. Wait, I just found it. So, and then I'll answer your question. Okay, there it is.
Oh, I see. Nufik Nesor. Yeah.
So sorry, could you repeat your question, sir?
Yeah, I mean, you say that you are mu'alaf in 2000 and in
Eight
2000 and
officially,
oh, 8 officially, and then
2008.
okay, so many things
2000.
they have to adjust, because yeah, probably Islam in Netherlands and Islam Indonesia probably a little bit different. And then how you see, I mean, you are in the journey, as a Muslim, and then how you find it in Indonesia here? I mean, I mean, your preacher, for example, your ulama, I mean, help you a lot in finding to fill out the journey because I cannot imagine. I mean, we have to really adjust to the new value.
Mhm. Yeah, that is true. The the thing is that in the Netherlands, it's much more difficult for a Muslim to find a community unless you are like part of a community already. Like if you're Moroccan or from Turkey, then you can join. There are many people who practice the same religion. But for me, to find other, you know, Dutch people, Boule, that
Hmm.
also are convert is very difficult. So I most of it I learned because of my wife and her family that time, or by just finding information myself. But the thing is that because the Netherlands is not an Islamic country, it's not easy to practice your religion. So you have to be more proactive. Like in Indonesia, you can, if you want to go for prayer, or especially the Friday prayer. I mean, everywhere there you will find a masjid, right? In the Netherlands, it's a little bit more difficult. So either you have to like bring your own sujada or to your office, and that, but people may not understand. They don't understand when you want to practice, or when you, oh, I need to pray. They will not understand unless most of your colleagues are also Muslim. So even though it's supposed to be a tolerant country, I found that a bit difficult. One of the most difficult things is when you have Ramadan. But when I was still living in the Netherlands, I was still slowly learning how to fast because my body was not used to it.
Yeah, I see.
So, but that is not easy because I mean, especially if you work in a company where, like in the southern part of the Netherlands, where every occasion is celebrated with cake and coffee and things, it's very difficult. So people will not understand how to adjust to that. So you have to be really strong to resist all the temptations, and it might not always be nice. In Indonesia, there's a lot of understanding, and if you tell people I'm mualaf, they're very warm and accepting and welcoming. So that was actually a good change. But that's why I came here. I had high expectations about that. So, but I noticed that um, from the outside, people practice the religion like a lot, and
Mm.
people always talk about it, and they talk a lot about, yeah, the name of God. And then sometimes when I see people's behavior, it doesn't always match with that. So from the outside, it looks like many people are very religious, but the way they actually sometimes think or speak, or when they're not talking about religion, it's actually different, or the values that they show in real life is sometimes doesn't really match. Like if there people are not honest, or they don't agree, that, I mean, they don't do their part of a deal, that those are like basic virtues from the religion. Sometimes in practice, or when people are gossiping, or when they are very aggressive in traffic, to me that sometimes feels a little bit strange or even difficult, even though we're all human.
Yep.
I mean, I make many mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I found that interesting. Also in our school, which is Catholic, so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I have experience with different types of religion because, yeah, of my interesting life path.
Mm-hmm.
So even also the people are very serious when they go to, it's called the praise and worship, or when they go to church. And but sometimes the way they actually behave, sometimes I think that that's different from what they sometimes say. So I think sometimes it doesn't match how people behave in practice, and
Mm.
how, according to the religion, how they're supposed to behave. Or maybe it's because I didn't understand it enough. But there's something that, to be honest, sometimes I found it a little bit disappointing. But then again, I mean, we're all human, so we're all on a journey and we're all learning. And I don't want to, correct people because who am I? I mean, I'm also just a, humble soul making many mistakes. So I don't have any right to question anybody. But sometimes it makes it difficult to understand what is the right path, and or what to do, or how to find a good teacher. But now I luckily have somebody who helps me at least a little bit to understand some of the things, and that's good. So everybody needs some kind of a spiritual teacher, right? So.
Okay, I see, I see. Yeah. actually not only you as a person that converts to Muslim, but I am the Muslim. I mean, when I was born, but I still have to understand what is the religions, and then the hard thing is not only about the knowing the knowledge about the Muslim. I mean the value, but also the hardest is the willingness to apply the value. Like for example, we have the 5 times a day. I mean, prayer, and then we have to be really punctual. But sometimes we see it as only for praying, but not only applied in our life. I mean, so in the end of the day, the people will be really different on see what the I mean what the religion is, and then it will be different because you probably you convert to Muslim because you find out the value that you're really interested in to study. But most of us like we are Muslim because we are born from the Muslim. So yeah, it's kind of a different thing that we have to really learn. But it's a very good perspective on how you as the person that converts to Muslim see the people itself. Okay, so we have the questions for the students. Alia Hasna, please, Alia Hasna, you can ask directly to Mr. Marcel the questions.
Okay, so I'm Alia Hasna and I'm 10th grader of Science 2. Well, in here, I'm actually have a different opinion on Mr. Marshall's statement about studying English is hard. So actually studying English, it's easy because of it's easy to learn, but actually it's hard to master. Like why it's hard to master? Because of like one of the problem is about grammar and then pronunciation and the irregular verbs that using specific rules, and also really fast because of the accent, or maybe from various accent, from the American accent, British, and also from the Australian accent. So, but the easy one or the easy part is that because of sometimes there's not the formal tenses that we usually use in our bahasa daerah like that, and like such using the younger and the older or maybe the same age. Yep, and then there's no verb declination, and also we just like use a variety of words in lots of situations. So I think that's why English is easier than other language. And so the last statement is that English is easy to learn but hard to master. So I just need a little of your opinion about my statement. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so really thank you very much, Alia.
Wow. And your English is so wonderful. Wow. You said it so fluently and it's very brave. Thank you so much. I hope I get your point because you talked a lot and and you explained from different perspectives. Um, so yeah, I just I know it's what I said was too black and white. So it's not that English is always harder because you're right. If you look at especially Chinese, but also in Indonesia, sometimes the words depend on the context, and that's very difficult. And it depends on who you are talking to, an elder or a person of a lower position. So actually, in English, sometimes that's clearer, but that used to be different in the past too, I think, because the culture has changed, so the language also changed. So it's actually good what you said. It's easy to learn, but hard to master. So it's easy to learn how to speak basic English, but to speak well is that is tricky. And what you said about the accents, it's very true. That sometimes it's for me it's easier because I don't have a particular. I mean, I just have a Dutch English accent, which is usually easier to follow.
I see.
While we had a teacher from Ireland, a woman from Ireland, who was teaching in kindergarten when my son was there, and everybody had difficulties understanding her because she said, "Yeah, what's it?" It's actually easier to have an Indonesian English teacher or well, Indian sometimes are a bit difficult to because they have a difficult accent sometimes. But nowadays it's also changed, I think. But yeah, that's true. Accents make it very difficult sometimes. If you listen to the BBC, it's a bit challenging even for me sometimes if they talk too fast.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's true. That yeah, you made a very good point there. Thank you
So
for that.
thank you, Ali. Yeah. Okay, so since because as you know that Indonesia see English as the third language actually, as a foreign language, because we have Bahasa Indonesia, which is much more simpler than English, but also we have kind of a local language. Here in Indonesia, we have more than thousands local language, and then this way harder than English because probably I'm from Sundanese. As Sundanese, we have like different vowel sound. We have the vowel literal, and then we have really different what's that? Really different uh, type of the symbol. I mean, it's kind of the Thai language, and then also so many hierarchy. Like this word you can use for example, it. It in bahasa in Sundanese there are so much word that meaning it. Like if you want to say it to your peers, you can say dahar. If you say to someone that older than you can say tuang. If you say you want to say to someone that probably younger than you can say like nada. If you say you want to say it to like to the animals, like so many words. I mean, there are actually more than 10 words to say the it. I mean, in local language. This is why we comparing English is hard because they have the grammar sometimes. And the grammar also is not really solid. Like yeah, it's not really solid. Like you say in your presentations that like boxes, but oxes, not oxes, but oxen. Like tooth become teeth, not tooths. It's kind of different, but comparing to the very local language, for example, so many local language in Indonesia is way harder local language in Indonesia because we enter the value and the culture into the language itself. Yeah, so that's why you have to go around to Indonesia to find out the different local language. So it will be amaze you. Okay, so any more questions? So how about any more questions? Hafiz, do you have any question, Hafiz?
Don't be shy. By the way, if you don't mind, if the students are too shy to say it directly through the camera, just let them type it in the. I think you already said it. Just let them
Yes,
type it. I will read the question and then I'll try to answer it because I can imagine that it makes you nervous
Yeah,
if you
probably.
have to ask directly. I don't know. That happens a lot in my experience. So it's okay if they just type it. No
So
problem.
should you have any question, just type it on the chat box, and then you can directly raise your hand. So any questions? Like Rasha, do you have a question,
Now
Rasha?
is your chance.
Yep. Rasha, do you have any questions?
Pardon, did you ask me?
Yes. Okay. Do you have any questions regarding to Mr. Marcel?
Perhaps, do you have any advice to students that are insecure about their English? Because I know, like, a lot of my friends, they are very good English speakers, but the problem is that they're not very confident with using it. They're, like you said, they're afraid of making mistakes and stuff like that. So, what would you say to them?
Yeah, it would be easier if we can just, let them meet native speakers like every week, but it doesn't have to be native speakers. Um, yeah, confidence is a difficult thing because if you're already a teenager, then yeah, it's part of being a teenager, and depending on your culture, is different. So that's why if I see it in the kids at school, in primary, lower primary, they're very confident, and then when they go to the higher levels, they sometimes become a little bit shyer. But still, the reason why most of the kids are so verbal, so expressive in our school, is because they are forced to practice it, so they have no choice. That makes it in the beginning they will be maybe nervous, but because their friends even during break time speak English, they have no choice. Then people grow faster when they I mean, they learn language faster when they know they have to use it, so they don't have any backup. And in the beginning, they have to get out of their comfort zone. Like me, when I'm with my the teacher once a week, learning how to read Al Quran. He doesn't speak English, maybe 3 words, and I'm very shy in the beginning. And but I know my Bahasa is very bad, and I'm just trying to learn. I don't really study it that much anymore, to be honest, because sometimes I'm very busy. But by talking to him, I get better all the time. But the only way to do is by talking and talking and talking and talking and trying. And he is very patient and very understanding. That's why I'm more confident. So if you can somehow with those friends create a group together, it's difficult now online maybe that you like decide we can only speak English. That's it. But you're very accepting of each other and you don't criticize each other's mistakes. You just talk. But without, it's the same like with writing. Sorry if I go here and there in my talking, but I'm trying to think this through for you to help you the best way in writing. um, I get writer's block because I'm a writer, also part time as a hobby. If I get stuck, it's mostly because I'm looking at what I'm writing and I see, oh, that's not good. I hate that. That's horrible. Nobody will read that. And then it stops. The creativity stops. I stop writing. It's called writer's block. The only way for me to keep going every day is just, first of all, I force myself to just do it. Like every day I have to write 500 words. So every day I have to write for 1 hour. It's the same with speaking, almost the same. So I force myself to do it. But at the same time, I don't try to correct myself. I'm not looking at the text, oh, this is wrong, because I know it's the creative process. It's not the editing part. I'm not editing, I'm just writing. It's just an idea. So I allow myself to just make mistakes and I accept it. And I don't, when I write something, and I got this from other people who are more accomplished than me, I don't praise myself for the result. I praise myself for just doing it. And that is a very, very important difference. Also, when you're learning a language, praise yourself for being brave to speak the language. Do not praise yourself for making as little mistakes or being sophisticated. That's not important. Important is you praise yourself for going out of your comfort zone and to do the speaking, even though it's very scary. The fact that you do it is all that matters. It doesn't matter if it's correct. It even doesn't matter if people don't understand. You can always figure it out later. The only thing that matters is that you allow yourself to, but you have to force it. If you're in a group and the people are shy to talk English with each other, it is easier if you can somehow force it. Okay, today we have an activity together, competition. We can only speak in English, period. Everybody will follow this rule. Or every day when, with your friends or whoever that is, when parents, if the parents can speak English, like make it an English hour or English day. Force yourself to only speak the language, but be very, very, very forgiving because you're learning. Your internal critic should be turned off because it will block everything and you'll be scared. And be very praise praise your friends and praise yourself. Every time you do it, praise yourself, praise yourself. People don't get enough praise. You know what I notice when I see sometimes other teachers? I'm not here to criticize people. I'm a much more horrible teacher than they are. But some teachers are really criticize the kids when they cannot do something, and that is really, 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 really unhealthy. And if that happens to you, the teachers always criticize you for making mistakes in the grammar, you're going to be discouraged. So be forgiving and praise, 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 praise. Then you will get more confidence because you will not be scared to make a mistake. And then after that, then you start learning. It's much easier. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
There is a question from the students, actually, but I would like to read it for you. Okay, so there is a
Mm-hmm.
student. This is the very outbox questions, and okay, this is also make me curious. And we here in Indonesia, I mean, when we are in school, so we're teaching about the colonializations. Okay, so do I mean in Netherlands? I mean, when you were a kid, like learning about what is colonizations and then the history of colonization within the Netherlands and Indonesia. This could be the very sensitive, but I'm really curious too, actually. One of the students asked me about this one. So, what is your
See, there's
experience when you're a kid?
that's another example. Don't be scared to try. I'm Dutch, so no, it's not
I
sensitive.
see.
Don't worry. Um, I have to be very embarrassed to admit that in our time, there was very little information about you know the time the colonization in Indonesia. Most of what we learn is about history, what happened in the Netherlands, like the 80-year war with Spain, and about the history of America, about Russia, and not much about that era. So I think, to be honest, like any government, but maybe that's what I suspect. I think most countries try to hide the ugly parts of their history anywhere, like the Japanese do with what they did to the Chinese and the Indonesians. And I think Indonesian um, history about colonization is also a little bit colored because of the nationalistic character that. But that happens to all that happens also in the Netherlands, I think. And there have been some writers who have been writing about the ugly parts of that history in Indonesia. I think Adriaan van Dist and Hella Haase, there are writers who wrote about that era. So in literature, there is information about that, and there are some Dutch people who have been there, like in the Kniel, and they will have stories that can confirm maybe what is actually also told in Indonesian history. But Dutch politicians in general, yeah, I think they're very careful to talk about that part of history. And the only thing was that last time the Dutch king, uh, King Willem Alexander, he came to Indonesia to apologize. So that was kind of symbolic, but I think that's only a tip of the iceberg. So yeah, we get very little information about the ugly parts of our history. I'm afraid. I don't know about now because that's already like 30 years ago. So, but yeah. So.
Kind of the very sensitive, yeah, I mean, sensitive matter. I mean, both in Indonesia and in Netherlands. So, I mean, the politicians and then probably the education department. I mean, they were really
Mhm.
careful to make it in their subject and also.
I
Okay,
know.
yeah. Okay, so and next one we have probably this is the last questions from Rafib FN from social science. Please, Rafib. Okay, Rafib. So yeah, so you can ask your questions directly to Mr. Marcel.
It's okay. Don't be afraid to ask any question.
Okay. Uh, First, I'm sorry, I have to turn off my camera because my internet is unstable.
Okay.
It's
Uh,
okay.
and second, do you mind if I ask a lot of questions?
Oh, I hope I can remember them all. Maybe I need to write them. No
No,
problem.
it's just two questions, not that much.
Okay.
Uh, you live in Indonesia before, right?
Oh, still.
Do you find it hard adapting to the culture?
Hmm. Okay. That's your first question. Is it hard to adapt to the culture?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
that's my
okay.
first question.
Well, yeah. I think it also depends, but in general, it depends on the person how open-minded you are. But I think yes and no. It's it's I think Dutch people are used to other cultures. So for me also, I was used to other cultures and religions a little bit before, so that was easier. Um, I think in the beginning I was very excited, and I learned a lot of things very fast. And it was easier for me than other Dutch people because of my willingness to embrace Islam, the religion. So that opens many doors. It's much easier for me to connect to people. People are less shy. They're what do you call that? Less reserved when they know that you're also yeah, at least a mualaf, so somebody who is interested in the religion. So it makes it easier to connect because 80% of Indonesians are Muslim, at least according to the statistics what I that I saw. But so that made it actually easier. So in the beginning, I was always welcomed, and people were very polite and sometimes curious. It was actually later when I was already living here for a while that I started questioning many things. Like, why do people do like this? Why do people behave like that in traffic? Why do people sometimes not respect certain privacy? Or why do people not? Why are they not always punctual? Or why do people still? But it's not really culture. I mean, like, why do people still burn garbage? Or why this or why that? I became a little bit skeptical. I think because I was going too fast in the beginning, and also maybe because you see different things. Like many people who come to Indonesia, like friends and family that I know who have been here, they always say, oh, it's so wonderful and the people are so nice. But you find out everywhere in the world there are challenges and things that are difficult. So I think when you're first here, you see through the eyes of a tourist a little bit, and you see everything like you're wearing sorry, pink glasses, like everything looks so wonderful. Oh, people are so spiritual and they're so warm, and hospitality so nice. And then later you start to notice things that you didn't notice before, or you didn't care about, and that happened a little bit to me. Then I became a bit skeptical and critical. I think also because I was still figuring out myself, because a new religion, and so and maybe I was also figuring out my own identity. And sometimes you have to be careful, and that will happen to you when you go to another country, that you will like give up your old identity. And I've seen it happen to some Caucasian, like foreigners, that they want to become too Indonesian, and then later you kind of, you know, notice that your identity has changed too much. So then you start romanticizing your old culture again, and then you start comparing. So I think important is, if you ever go to another country, do not give up your own identity and your values, but also be open for the new one. It works much better if you can mix it. You can keep some of your old values, or at least the important ones, and your identity as an Indonesian, like me, my Dutch identity. Don't throw it away. Keep it, but at the same time, be open. That's the, I think, is a better way, and that that is something that I'm now, I think, starting to realize. Okay, does it answer your first question?
Yeah, that's my first question. The second one is more
Okay.
like I want your opinion on something.
Okay, sure. If I know the answer, I will.
Okay, so what do you think of different crime rates between the East and the West?
Do you have any, like, do you have any data, or you must have some opinion about that? Do you think is it more or less in the East or the West, or?
From what I watch in the movies, uh, crime rates in the West tends to be a little bit more high than the East.
Mhm.
Well, that's
Um,
what I think.
well, yeah, it's very good that you think about those things. That's really impressive. I'm very happy. That makes me very sorry. Yeah, and then I'll answer your question. It makes me very, optimistic, because you are the new generation. You want to think about those things. It's very important. I think you have a point, but it's not as black. Same like when I'm talking. Sometimes I sound too black and white when I compare East and West. There's because it depends, right? I think in some areas, especially in some areas of the United States and the Netherlands, some cities, you can see that there has been, but I just because of a book I read, um, the disappearing of a sense of community. So people are very lonely, and they don't have that sense of community. I think they're already changing. They don't have that same sense of community. But in traditional complex, like where I live, the people are very, they're aware of what is happening. They keep an eye on each other. So there's a sense of community and bonding, and like a big brother is watching you. The people in the neighborhood, they're very watch, especially in if you go to the lower social class neighborhoods, people know everything about each other. Sometimes that's not comfortable when you want some privacy, but it's also more secure. Not always, but there's still a lot of crime happens, I think, in Indonesia. But um, in some areas, you can see that values are disappearing and there's a lot of uncertainty. People are very lonely and they don't have a support structure. They don't have a sense of community. So they feel very desperate and people don't checking each other. And when people have problems, like they're depressed or sad, like in Indonesia, I think people are much, if I see at school the colleagues, then they always talk to each other, but they have a sense of togetherness. And sometimes that is disappearing in some Western countries. Not always. If you go to Italy, I think it's different, but that might also be changing. So I think there is indeed a real change, and people are losing something, and also because of religion, there's many people who don't go to church anymore, and they're looking for different values, but sometimes they find values that are a bit aggressive, like how to say that, like a lot of hatred. But it is not only because differences between East and West, it's also because of the social media. It makes people more emotional even. And maybe that also increases crime rate. But it is not everywhere. The movies are very black and white. Movies do not paint a complete picture of the reality. There are many cities that have a very high crime rate, like New York, and yeah, they're like the city where George Floyd was killed by an police officer, right? So, but in other cities, I don't know which ones because I don't have the statistic. They're actually improving. So, but I think the one of the important building blocks that prevent crime is a sense of community. And in some areas of the West, that is lacking. But we have to be careful because in Indonesia, lifestyles are also changing. People are becoming a little bit more individualistic. So I'm not sure if it's always different between the East and the West. I think it depends on the area and the city. So does that answer? Or,
Yeah, it kind of answers a bit.
mhm. But you still have some doubts about something.
So I guess that's it for my question.
Mhm. But I think those
Yeah,
questions are
maybe a
kind
little
of,
bit.
yeah, yeah.
So that's it for my question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's it for my questions, and thank you for your time.
You're most welcome. Sorry, I cannot give you a very clear answer because I think you need to study political ecology or something, or you have to know the science or the statistics to really because it's like almost a scientific question, right? It's but I think there's a point there that I think it's true. Depends on yeah, the value system and the community. Any other questions or?
So thank you very much. This is probably the last questions from Rafi from social science. And really, thank you very much for your detailed answer actually, because you really give your answer and then how to respond our question really detailed and then giving the example. It makes us can imagine and understand well. Okay, so yeah, this is we are reaching to the end of these sessions because we have until 9:30. And we really appreciate your awesome presentation, Mr. Marcel. Thank you very much for being with us today. Actually, we have the English camp, online English camp, but online during this time. So yeah, the students supposedly to speak as much as possible in English. Some students can really good, but some students still need to be improved. And sometimes the students feel inferior for making a mistake while speaking. So thank you very much for enlightening us and then giving the tips and how to be really not confident but comfortable when talking in English. Of course, I made a lot of mistakes as a teacher also, but I think I am capable when speaking in English. And yeah, before closing our agenda or our sessions, I need to inform you that in a 9:45, we will have we continue your English camp with JHA, and then you can join to the class, and then we have break like 15 minutes. But before closing the sessions, so we have take a picture together, and then please for the student, please turn on your camera. So please turn on camera because we will have take a picture together here. And then since this is the English Camp 1.0, so while we can give you the pose like this one, like this one, but really long because we have the four screen here. So yeah, ready, operator? Okay, so operator ready. So give your best smile and then one. Really long because there are 4 slides. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so thank you very much and give a big applause for all of us. Applause online, and then you can give reactions applause. Okay, so really thank you very much, Mr. Marcel, for being with us, and thank you for all the teachers that go along with us, and also the students that have involved in this agenda, and then for from GC, thank you very much, and then for Pasahdan also, so really thank you very much for this event. So because we open these sessions with Basmalah, so we have to close with Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Okay, and so for me, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and see you in the next sessions.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.